Okay.
So, Siddhant Shekher, India's
Yes.
first light novel author. How are you feeling?
Nervous, really, because when we started working on this, I didn't really know what the response is going to be like for a light novel.
Hmm.
Because it's a very new medium, especially in India. I really was, before I started claiming it's India's first light novel, we thought about it a lot. We wanted to do should we do a star mark or something? But then we realized it's actually someone's doing it for the first time in India.
Which is really strange when you're considering that we do consume a lot of Japanese culture.
Yes.
We do consume
Yes.
anime and manga, but I don't think light novels technically are something
Yeah.
we actively know about. So, what exactly is a light novel for someone who is completely new to the genre?
So light novels are sort of like a hybrid between manga and novels,
Okay.
where manga is your standard graphic serialized storytelling, but and novels are of course novels, but light
Yeah.
novels exist in that weird continuum between the two, where it's serialized and
Okay.
it can be very long. There are series which go into like 20, 30 volumes as well, and plus there's graphic art in them as well. So I think the major reason why it hasn't percolated into India all that much is because it's such a new form. Because it's barely 20 years old at this point.
Is it?
Because it started off in Japan mostly as web novels,
Which makes sense, yeah.
and then from there, once it started, it sort of followed like the same journey that Andy Weir's Martian does, but for a very specific demographic.
Okay.
And then it just blew up. So many series that are there on like a Netflix or a Crunchyroll right now, they started off their life like Sword Art Online, which is such a huge
Yeah, Sword Art
franchise.
Online, yeah, of course.
It started off as a light novel.
Okay. For our viewers, what other things that they might have heard about that came from light novels originally that you can tell us?
Lot of them. So for example, I Want to Eat Your Pancreas,
Yeah.
which started off as a
As a
light
light
novel.
novel,
Sword
yeah.
Art Online, ReZero.
ReZero, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So there are so many franchises that just sort of happened as a light novel initially, and then what helps light novels sort of crossover is because it follows the manga conventions very closely. It's serialized. There's artwork already in there, so your character design and all of that is done for you. And because of that, so many light novels get manga adaptations. Sometimes they skip all of that and go directly into an anime adaptation as well. And there are so many light novels right now which are like an ongoing running series while the anime is sort of catching up to that as
Yeah.
well. So which is why and when we started working on Death Wish, so I thought of Death Wish almost more than 10, 15 years ago, in fact.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it started off as a graphic novel.
Oh, I mean, makes sense. I
Yeah.
can see it as a graphic novel.
Yeah.
There is a lot of action in it.
Yeah.
There is a lot of action-packed scenes, movements. It makes sense as a graphic novel.
Yeah.
And would you hope for it to be adapted into a graphic novel someday?
Absolutely. I'd love for it to be adapted into a graphic novel. But I think the reason we sort of went with this as a light novel was, of course, when this came about, and I realized it very recently when I was sort of, when I went deeper into light novel in the last couple of years, is that I had the idea almost at the exact same time when urban fantasy was growing as a light novel genre.
Yes.
And it just hadn't percolated in India because this is like 2009, 2010, where like internet wasn't as accessible, and we didn't really know, like Japanese media hadn't percolated into India all that much. And now that I go and look back to it, I realized that I had the ideas almost at the same times when some of the initial pioneers of that genres were writing. So yeah, I'm very excited to see how it lands here, and we have very big plans for the rest of the series now.
How many books are you planning in the series? And how fast are these books going to come out?
Very quickly. And I think that's one of the reasons why we went with the light novel format, because the plan that at least that we have so far is to release a volume every 3 months.
Every 3 months?
Every 3 months.
That's incredible. So you already have volume 2 written?
Volume 2 is written. I'm working on volume 3 right now, and the plan is to have at least 7.
Oh, wow.
But it might go up. I don't know yet, because where I've hit the end of volume 2, that was supposed to be, volume 1. So like a third major character who's sort of completing the trinity of the story. That character is now coming at the end of volume 2.
Oh,
and
wow.
he was supposed to show up at the end of volume 1. So I'm already like 50% behind schedule. But
that's great. But that's how stories develop
yeah,
and grow,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think my initial ideas about the story that I had when I was going into it, that has evolved so much. The world the story set in, the history of that world,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the mythology behind the one of the, like, the character of Kronos, that
Yeah,
has
exactly.
grown so much.
Yeah. One thing that I wanted to talk to you about this thing, thinking wise as a writer, I'm always fascinated by the idea of names. And from what I could see in this book, there seems to be a blend, there's a very interesting thing where there's a blend of Indian and Japanese names. So you have the name of Arvind, sort of, but that's sort of Japanified, so to speak. Yeah. My favorite was Kurukshetra becomes Korukshetra. I was like, that is an incredible name. I'm unhappy I did not think about it first. So what are your thinking on the names? What are you thinking on blending sort of Indian in Indian setting while staying true to Japanese origins?
So I think it just came out of a limitation on my end that I'm terrible at naming characters. I'm absolutely terrible at
Yeah.
naming characters. And the lead character of Arkav, he was initially supposed to be called Sunil.
Yeah, I wouldn't have had the same effect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Which is why, like, and I think for a majority of the first draft when it was being written was still Sunil. But then I realized because the world had evolved so much, I had moved away from India to like the UIF setting, and I went and made a map, and then I went and built the world, and then I realized, having Sunil there doesn't really fit.
It doesn't really fit. I agree.
And I wanted to change Kronos as well, but then I really loved the name. I went, let it be. But yeah. So, but then my algorithm for the whole thing was take an Indian name and either add or subtract a letter.
Yeah, exactly.
So Arav became Arkav, and Mansi had an extra C in there.
Yeah.
And Sahil became Skahil. So that's how I sort of approached it. It's a very dumb reason, but then it worked for me.
It's not, the thing is, it's not dumb, it's simple, but it actually does work.
It works.
I looked at that name and I'm like, I can feel that this is Indian, but this reads like a Japanese name, which is staying true to true origins. And even though it might seem simple on the surface, it's actually quite a fascinating thing. So I really like that. Kronos, as you said, is the only outlier.
Yeah.
Because it is the Greek god of time and he's supposed to be whatever. He's supposed to be old or...
Yeah, no spoilers. We will avoid spoilers.
Yeah, there's no spoilers. I have not read the last 10 pages. So I have left myself on a cliffhanger and come here. But I don't know what he is also at this point. So, but it goes with his theme. But that is the only name that is this thing, out of place.
Yeah.
But I think it works because he's sort of out of time in his own mythology.
Yeah.
So it does make sense in that way. And I think that's good. The art itself, that art was also inspired, I assume, by manga?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things, and it was one thing that I struggled with a lot, was, sort of just deciding what's going to be the art style here.
Exactly.
And I was working very closely with my publisher, and, my publisher Bhanu and Prishti, the publishing house I'm working with. So they are very deeply embedded in the comics ecosystem of India.
Oh, are they?
And because of that, we spent a lot of time trying to get the artwork of it correct. Because I talked about it in an earlier reel also. The original cover that we had was very different. And then by the time we got closer to publishing, we realized that it's not really, it's not conveying the darkness of the story. It was feeling a bit more like a shonen kind of a story. Well, it's not. It's really not.
It's really not. It was surprisingly dark and psychological for something that I would have assumed would be more just action heavy. Yeah.
And that was sort of intentional. And it gets worse. Like, I have already written volume 2. I know it gets so much worse.
Yeah. So for those who haven't read it or for those who haven't do it, if I had to pitch this to someone, I would say this is wanting to die man face off against a deathless man or
basically,
something.
Yeah. Actually, yeah.
Yeah. So the psychology of Arkav and how deeply he wants to die. How did you prepare for that intensity, and what was your process in preparing for a character who is, how do you balance it between him wanting to die and him moving forward as a
Yeah.
plot device? Because someone wanting to live is a plot device.
Yeah.
How do you balance wanting to die
Yeah.
as a plot forward action?
I know.
How do you get that done?
I think it was even now, like, I mean, by the time I completed volume 2, it was like a recurring question in my head that, it's a guy who wants to die. Why isn't he just killing himself?
Yeah, exactly.
But then, like, the deeper I sort of went into writing the chapters where it's just Arkav on his own, I think that is where I sort of started creating his own sense of the world, where he's, he knows he wants to die, but then he comes up with a lot of reasons why he doesn't think he is allowed to die.
Yeah, which I thought was an interesting psychological sort of trick that he's playing with himself. Yeah.
And it is, he's crazy. I'm not denying that. He's not a well-adjusted person. If any of you think that, he's a good role model, please don't. He's not. He's terrible. But I think the reason I enjoy writing Arkav so much is because he's such a complex character who's full of contradictions on his own self. He's someone who's like picking a fight that he has absolutely no chances of winning just to be, just as an elaborate FU to Kronos.
Yeah, and as a way, like, oh, maybe this dude will kill me. Maybe this dude will kill me. And I'm like, bro, just do it. So that's the thing. Someone who, Catcher in the Rye, right? Like Catcher in the Rye. I hated Catcher in the Rye because that dude was just...
I love it. I hate Catcher in the Rye too.
Yeah, because that dude is just whining all the
he's just very annoying.
time. He's so annoying.
Very annoying.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I didn't feel that way about this book because even though this dude is self-hating and he's annoying himself and whatever, he's still interesting enough in a way that you want to follow his journey through the city, through the thing, and it's sort of in a way. I hope down the line we get to know what exactly his damage is, dude.
Yes,
like what has made this dude this way. That's what I want to know.
So I cut out all of it. So all of this, part of it comes in volume 2, and then volume 3 is where I'm planning to, sort of just step back and give you the backstories of all the major characters.
Yeah.
So once you know why Arkav is the way it is, it kind of makes sense also.
I hope so. Yeah.
Because this guy has not had a good life so far.
I'm sure. But So and that is the thing. When you say he's not had a good life, he's not. So I'm fascinated by the fact that you make an inherently unlikable or self-hating character still someone that you want to read about, and there's still someone you want to, who moves the plot forward in some way or the other. And that is very interesting, even without giving us his backstory. And I appreciate the fact that the next book is coming out soon, because then you're able to easily find out more sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So
I think one of the reasons light novels work better is because as you cut down the length of every individual volume, it gets quicker to write. It's it's a lot longer. It takes a lot longer to write a 60,000 book versus a 40,000 book, and it takes so much longer to write an 80,000 or 100,000 book compared to 60,000. So that's why we sort of intentionally capped it at 40, because it's quicker turnaround time for us, and plus I'm pretty sure as we go along it'll get longer. But then it took me a lot shorter to write the second volume, because once you've inhabited the world for a while, how the characters are speaking and what needs to happen.
Absolutely.
So I'm hoping that as we go ahead, I'll be able to sort of flesh out the story a bit more, because that's what I'm really looking forward to now, because now we are getting into the history of UIF and
the serialization of it, all of it. That absolutely. I am already invested in the characters, and I already think that it's a great background world that you built, and you built a lot of action into it. So if you had an ideal reader in mind, who would that be?
My ideal reader is someone who is looking for something that sort of who wants to read something that sits at the intersection of Death Note and Monster.
Amazing.
Because Death Note has the classic psychological sort of mind games between L and Kira, while Monster gives a surprising amount of emotional depth and a psychological depth to all the characters. Not just
Correct.
Tenma, it's also Johan and all the
Yeah,
other
yeah,
even
yeah.
smaller minor characters. There are so many episodes in that manga and in that anime which as standalone also give you such beautiful characters. And that's what I'm sort of like in volume 2 there is something coming up where I am really excited to talk about this one family whose life is taken apart by Kronos, and that's it. It's just there to show to the extent that Kronos can go very casually just to make a point about something.
Very cool. Yeah. So you're going to be churning out books at Freedom McFadden levels?
I hope so. Slightly. I don't want to say better, but
That was a
fingers crossed.
That was a trap question. I apologize. I know that was a trap.
To be fair, I liked the housemaid.
And only the housemaid, guys.
His words, not mine.
No, I appreciate the speed, though. I appreciate the quickness at which they're coming, and I think they're good for. And I think a reader who likes quick action, who likes easy to read books, who likes short books that they can read as palate cleansers or come around or something when everything around is emotionally heavy. They want a lot of action. I think for those kind of readers, it's a perfect kind of book.
And that's exactly the kind of genre that light novels always strive to be as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's not. I mean, I think light novels get a bad rap because of like the whole isekai explosion that's happened recently. But a lot of light novels, once you sort of look past the premise, they have such beautifully written characters. I mean, it would be at par to something that you see in like very prestige literary fiction kind of a book.
Yeah.
But because it's set in a world which has which is inherently plot driven, they don't get as much attention to it. But I think that you could do wonderful things in the medium.
Absolutely. And I've been thinking about this. I've shot a reel already about this, but DCC, of course, Dungeon Crawler Carl, yeah. It's not prestige literature. It's not like very well written. There's like swear words and slurs and like gore and blood coming, but they have such beautifully written characters. They have like emotional storylines. They have bigger world building arcs. So it doesn't need to be award-winning lit fic to have emotional depth. And I think that more and more people are realizing that, and I think people who read your book will realize that as well.
Yeah, let's hope so, because I love DCC. DCC is, I think it's one of the most inventive pieces of work to come out. And the weird thing is, like, DCC's roots, if you trace them, they almost entirely fall back into light novels.
Into webcomics, people have told me. Yeah.
Webcomics, and webcomics are sort of like, an offshoot of the light novel and the genre, let's become a novelist. So there's this website, I'm forgetting the Japanese name for it, I can never pronounce it, but it essentially means let's become a novelist.
Okay.
And so many of these light novels, which are, these multi-million-dollar franchises today, they started off as one guy in their room writing a novel because it was fun to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And DCC, if you like really trace its roots, it sort of ends up as like a fucked up version of Sword Art Online.
Yeah.
But that's where the whole thing began.
Yeah, pretty much. So essentially, if you enjoy DCC, if you enjoy well-written, plot-driven, action-paced literature, I think they'll like your book.
Yeah.
And that's a quote. Okay, so now moving on to your other books, how did this compare to writing your other books? Because you've got a book which is, again, on the surface about falling in love and relationships and young relationships. You have one thriller.
Yeah.
And so now you have light novels. So how you've written different genres. I, as someone who has written different genres myself, how do you navigate that line, and what do you find common between all of your books?
I think what I find common between all of my books is that I had fun writing them. That is basically the whole thing why I write. That's basically the entire reason why, I do what I do. Because if I'm not having fun writing, I'll probably never finish it. And the fact that I finished 3 books, like, published 3 books by now, it means that, I was having fun writing it.
Absolutely. So you were having, are there any themes you keep returning to across all your books? Are there any things that you like exploring in your books that you keep returning to?
Yeah, I think I mean, between Aryan and Join Me, or with Arkav and Deathwish, I think I always find myself returning to the classic archetype of the fallen hero. It's someone who has had like heroism thrust upon them, and they're not prepared for it, and then they sort of get obsessed with an idea, and then basically lead to their own downfall. Like the very Socratic, tragic hero kind of a character.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I think the way Arkav is different from everything that I've done is because obviously I have so much more to work with in terms of Arkav. Like I've got 7 planned books,
Of
and
course.
so
Yeah.
and plus also because it's such a big canvas for me, I can actually see my character evolve over time, and I can take the time, uh, given the 7-book series that I've planned at least now, and I have like emotional beats for Arkav in every story where this person is not the same person he was 1 book ago or 2 books ago. So I think that's why I really like Arkav as a character. Amongst everything that I've done so far, I think I have gotten the most space and time to craft him out. And that's why I'm really having fun with him. Like, his fall doesn't have to be like, meteoric. He can take his own slow time. He can get pulled into the whirlpool.
The thing is, I think you started with him fallen.
Yeah.
He's literally
Yeah.
starting, jumping, almost jumping off
Almost
the jump.
fallen. He can't fall for some reason.
For some reason. Is there a mythological, otherworldly, fantastical reason that you're planning for him not to be able to kill himself? Is that a spoiler?
It's coming. It's a spoiler. I won't tell you that.
Okay, fine. Then I'll just wait. But okay, tell me something about your publishing journey, because Web of Ties, for example, wasn't published with Red Grab first.
Yeah.
It was published in a different publication.
Yeah.
Then it came to Red Grab. You were looking, now you're with someone who is primarily publishing comic books.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting blend of genres and jumping between publishers, which I understand and empathize with. So tell me what that's been like.
So for Deathwish, I think Bhanu reached out to me. And,
okay.
So Bhanu, Prishti had just kicked off and they had done a couple of titles. And the idea with Prishti was to sort of go back to the way comics used to be published. Like, if you were...
Action comics.
Action comics is like, very Western. We are talking like Raj comics here.
Oh, okay.
Because that's the ecosystem we are operating.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Phantom comics.
Not even Phantom. So like...
Not even Phantom. Okay.
That's a different discussion altogether.
Okay.
Indrajal is a very different beast from Raj comics.
I'll take your word for it.
But so the way comics were done in like the 90s and early 2000s was they were published as sets.
I see.
So every month or every 2 months, you would have 5 or 6 titles coming out. And then, that's the entire process, how it went about. So when Prishti was kicking off, the idea was to do sets. That, you identify 3 or 4 titles and you come out with them every, whatever your publishing schedule looks like. I think we are doing bi-monthly right now. But that was the idea. And so Prishti was looking at something that, which could be an ongoing series, because they had just done standalones till that time. And Deathwish, I had already planned it as a graphic novel like 15 years ago. I think I was still in school when I started it. And so immediately it was like, yes, let's talk. And with Prishti, I think it really helped working with Prishti and Bhanu was because they are so tapped into the comics ecosystem. And there's like a very natural crossover between manga and comics and light novel. Not just even in terms of the reader demographic, just in terms of what the kind of storytelling happens in that.
Absolutely.
And this is something that even I realized, like, when I started writing Deathwish, because it's such a long story and they're like, you have to have an individual story in the volumes as well, but there has to be an overarching story as well.
Yeah, of course.
I think like the standard advice of, your 3-act story structure and all of that, all of it falls apart.
Of course, yeah.
And then, that is when I started getting into like the Eastern traditions of storytelling, your Kisho Tenketsus and all of those things. And that is when I realized that, there is a way to tell like a much larger story, and you cannot be restricted to the 3-act structure that way.
Of course not. Yeah. I think we are evolving beyond the 3-act structure in a lot of ways with serialized storytelling as a whole. Serialized storytelling doesn't follow simple 3-act structure simply because I think personally a lot of times because of Eastern anime adaptations, spin-offs, and also because of multiverses.
Yeah.
Right? The multiversal structure in itself requires you to constantly have spin-offs.
Yeah.
And constantly have broader and
Right.
broader and broader arcs.
Yeah.
So you can never stick to a 3-act structure because you're always planting seeds for more structure.
Yeah, exactly.
For more acts. Yeah.
And I think, so this is my hot take. I think...
Go for it. Yes.
I think 3-act structures are fundamentally sort of antithetical to the way stories are told in India. Like every movie in India has an interval. You can't do a 3-act structure with an interval.
Yeah.
So most movies in India, they would ideally like qualify for a 4-act structure, or sometimes even a 5-act structure.
Yeah.
But because so much of the education around writing, especially the screenwriting education that happens, it's so driven by the 3-act structure that I see a lot of times people trying to force fit that interval into a 3-act structure.
Absolutely.
Which just fundamentally breaks the story. Some of my most favorite films that have come out of India in the last couple of decades or so, these are all movies that own the fact that we cannot justify a 3-act structure because of the way our stories are structured. Because there has to be like a midpoint and an interval and a rising action before the interval.
Examples, please.
For example, let's say most recently, fine, let's just go back. Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum.
Okay, classic, of course. Yeah.
It has to end, that story, the first half of that story has to end with Rahul leaving home. And the second half of the story has to begin with Hrithik Roshan trying to find him in London. You cannot have that break point in the middle of a act of, if you're just treating that entire middle of the story as one single act 2, it doesn't work. You have to put a break in there, which means all of a sudden, like, your classic, your rising action and then threshold and all of that, all of it goes out of the window.
And I mean, I agree fundamentally, because I mean, even look at something simple as Shakespeare that has lasted for a long time. 5 acts.
Yeah.
Every time it's just been 5 acts, right? Every play of his. So if you need to have a longer time for the characters to breathe, for the stories to breathe before anything can actually happen. So I agree with you, and I think that this. So do you have a 7-act structure plan, or do you have, or you don't have any acts and you're just sort of going as letting it go where it takes you?
I think because I also sort of like pivoted away to following like a Kisho Tenketsu act, which is sort of like, it's a very fractalized way of telling a story.
Okay. So for those of who don't know, including me, who is that and what have they done?
So Kisho Tenketsu is it's the Japanese version of the 3-act structure.
I see. Okay.
But it is divided into 4 phases.
Okay. What are the phases?
I don't remember the names.
Just describe them. That's
so the names Ki, Sho, Ten, Ketsu. So these are the 4 phases of it.
Okay, sure.
And the essential difference between that is that your stories in a 3-act structure, they end with the 3rd act, and that's the resolution. The 4th act adds on to that. And that allows you to then expand that story once again. Like if you look at any anime, a lot of times, it gets treated as filler episodes, but a lot of times in the middle of a fight, characters take a break to go back and talk about their backstories. Like if you've seen Demon Slayer, that's most recent example I can think of. In the middle of a fight, we are just taking a 20-minute detour to understand who that character is and what happened in their life. That's very classic Kisho Tenketsu structure.
Or Goku taking 7 episodes to the spirit bomb, where he's seeing everybody on Earth giving him energy.
Yeah, basically that.
Yeah, I get it.
So because I started following that, that structure allows you to, expand your story as much as you want. Because every time you hit an end point, the next conflict is inbuilt into the story.
Like a Marvel end credit scene.
or like the 15 endings of Lord of the Rings, the extended cut.
Yes, exactly.
So because I was following that, at some point I just stopped caring about the number of acts in the story anymore.
Absolutely.
It's like the story will go where it needs to go. I have I have some semblance of where each volume needs to end, but that is all I know about the additional stories that comes after volume 3.
And this is something very interesting that I don't think a lot of newbie writers understand. When you write a story, a lot of these newbie writers will do these courses or read these books, and they'll be seeing the acts, and then they'll be trying to put their things in there. I'm like, once you start writing, you don't think of those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just becomes an intuitive part of the story that automatically builds and automatically goes to whichever part you need to go to. You're not thinking, oh yes, now we have reached act 2.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that. Yeah.
And I think that is why what I really believe in is that you need to finish writing stories.
Exactly. Absolutely.
I mean, obviously writing is a skill and you need to practice and all of those things. But I think also completing a story teaches you so much more about writing than just starting one.
Absolutely. And it doesn't matter if the story is crap.
Yeah, it will be crap. First drafts are always crap.
It doesn't matter if you can't improve it ever also. But writing that crap helps you learn about the story as a whole. And storytelling as a whole. And that's the most important thing.
And exactly. And that's why I think so many new writers, and not just new writers, I think even intermediate writers, and this was something that I struggled with for a long time as well. Because once you've started writing, you get very attached to something, and then you're like, I need to get this published, even if it's crap.
Oh, yeah.
So I think, just admit that your first drafts are going to be bad, and admit that you will always write things that are unpublishable. It's okay. It's part of the process.
Yeah. I've got people who are trying to tell me about 200,000 word stories in their debut novel.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, half of this shit is going to need to be cut out. Please cut it out before you show me. I'm not going to read this.
And I think that's why light novels work so well, because every individual volume is 200 pages.
Yeah.
So you can take as many volumes as you want, and you're not asking someone to commit 2 months of their life.
Absolutely.
I mean, the way Sanderson writes or or Neil Stephenson writes, where you have like 1,000-word long commitment at the beginning. Light novels don't force that upon you.
Absolutely. I remember we were meeting over a 6-month period in our mixers, and every time you were like, I've read Necrocomicon just a little bit more, just a little bit more, just a little bit more. And I'm like, how big is this fucking book,
it was like 1,100 pages. The version I had was 1,100 pages. But the point is that, I think that's why, and which is why I think light novels fit so well as a genre for fantasy.
Absolutely.
Because fantasy, longer books are difficult to publish, they're difficult to ship, they're difficult to stock, but you can't charge so much more for them.
And you can't charge most for them, exactly.
Which is why I think light novels sort of, break that up into multiple volumes. It gives the writer more time to write. It gives the reader, the option to leave a story midway if it's not sitting well with them. And it's also, I think the serialization also makes sense. Like novels as a standalone format, it's fairly new. Novels were written as serials for the longest time.
Since Dickens, onwards also have had it,
So I think light novels are just, sort of like the return to base in those terms, where instead of getting someone committing to an 800-page story at the beginning, you're giving people the whole conversation around short attention spans and TikTokification of literature and all of that is happening. I think light novels fit pretty well with that.
I think for someone who's not able to have been read a book in a while and who wants to get back into reading and wants something light, pun intended, light novels are like this are perfect. It is a perfect concept.
Yeah.
I just read DCC Book 8, for example.
Right.
I loved it, but it was heavy as hell.
Yeah.
So I wanted something light, and you approached me and you gave me the book, and I was like, wow, this is actually perfect because this is fast, this is easy to read, and it's interesting.
Yeah.
I am interested and I have a lot of questions. I want to read the next one. But since I don't have the physical copy, I wanted a practical question to ask you. How much are you pricing this at now?
So we're pricing it at 300.
Okay.
But then your distributor discounts and all of that will happen. So it'll actually depend upon what platform you're buying it off. But yes, we are planning if we're getting a good response with this and it gets scaled up, we are planning to bring the price down if it works out that way.
Absolutely.
Because another thing I realized with light novels is that it's priced very cheaply.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the sort of, the history of light novels, and even manga for that matter, so much of conversation happens around first volumes of manga and all. If you actually look at a copy of Shonen Jump, it's printed on like telephone directory paper.
Yeah, it is. I have a few volumes.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it's terrible paper,
Yeah.
and it's intentional. It's not like they can't afford better paper. It's intentional because everything is optimized to keep the price as low as possible. So that like a school going student or a college going student who can't afford too much can at least shell out like 100, 150 yen or whatever on that book. So that is sort of our idea of it as well. Because even if you look at fiction, even books in general, fantasy in general, it started to go up.
Which is why I was asking, because fiction in general especially longer fiction,
Yeah.
Sanderson,
Yeah.
DCC, whatever. I mean, DCC, I can only get in hardcover, and that's upward of 1.5K
Yeah,
for
exactly.
every book.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but this is accessible
Yeah.
fantasy world, so
Yeah.
to speak, which I think is interesting for an average Indian consumer,
Yeah.
especially one who wants to get into fantasy.
Exactly. And plus, what I realized, so I was recently in Thailand and I went to a bookstore there, and that is when I realized how big light novels are in like Eastern Asia. Because
okay.
that store had like, there was basically an entire store dedicated just to light novels.
Oh, damn.
And these are like, these were priced at maybe, I don't know, 500 Indian rupees or something, which is like, and this is like, adjusting for inflation and all, it's not much. So given how big the entire, and a lot of it is translated, a lot of it is, sort of turned into IPs that are franchised for anime and books and
Video games.
Video
games are
games,
huge. Yeah.
merchandise, much merchandise.
Yeah.
So I think because of all of these reasons, sort of, I think I'm like not sure of like the economics of it on the Japanese side, but I think a lot of the times these books are published as loss leaders. That you get people in, and then you use that for the animes and the movies and the merchandise and the video games and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. I played video games like Danganronpa, which then are turned into light novels, anime, manga, things like that. Steins Gate started as a video game, that's a visual novel, which I absolutely loved, and then the anime picked up again so much because of that, and that's fair. That's absolutely.
And I think that is something what the Japanese, and now it started to like bleed into the Korean and the Chinese ecosystems also. They are very comfortable with switching over medium.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you could like you could start off with a light novel, and then I mean, obviously it takes time and patience and skill and all of those things. But then eventually you find something which works in one medium, and they translate it very well to other mediums.
Demon Slayer, like the movie, was one of the highest grossing in Japan, and that was the standalone movie came from an anime, right?
Exactly.
So,
And a lot of the times, like I have never really heard as much complaint about adaptations from Japan as opposed to like Western media. Every 100%. Time like a book is adapted into a movie, they're like, people are up with pitchforks saying you cut this out, you cut that out. I have never seen that happen. I mean, to some extent, but very little.
We don't talk about the Dragon Ball Z live action.
That's Western again, so I'm not even going to count that. And that's not even Dragon Ball Z. That was like Legend of the Hand Fart.
I don't know what the hell that was.
But I think because the Japanese work so well in terms of translating media from one specific medium to another, it just gives wings to every property that they have.
Absolutely. And I think that's something we could also learn if we ever actually moved on from making movies on whatever we make movies on. That's okay. But this is very exciting. Are you hoping one day that you'll have like a 7-book anthology, like a
tankobon? Absolutely. I think the reason the story works so well, at least in my head, I mean, obviously the people who are reading you can tell me, but I think the reason the story works so well is because every volume stands on its own while contributing to a larger story as well. So obviously it makes more sense to read it in order, but even if you dip your toe in like one random volume that you saw in a bookstore somewhere, at least it sticks out on its own story as well. And I think that's something that long-running series have always done. Like, if you look at like a Harry Potter or a Hunger Games or, any of these stories, the initial few books, they have always been good standalone stories as well. And I think that is something that should contribute to how enjoyable the experience of reading Death Wishes as well.
Okay, that makes sense. That's very interesting. This would be more like an anthology TV show, like Fargo, if you're familiar with. So Fargo, every season takes place, has a different like mystery, but it's in the same town. So essentially, you obviously experiences enriched if you do it in order, but you don't actually need to do it in order to actually enjoy it, which is fair enough. That's good.
But then I think, here absolutely your experience would be elevated if you do it in order. Because it's a serialized story, so the characters, they are recurring characters. Plus, I enjoy putting like Easter eggs and callbacks in the stories. So if you are like, if you're reading it in order and you've stayed up to date with the volumes, then there's also that little one, some aha moment for you in there that, oh, I know what you're doing here.
Absolutely. Which is why I would hope one day we have like a full anthology of all of them in like one, like to be put on a bookshelf, nice illustrated covers, nice illustrated pictures inside. I'm manifesting it for you.
Thank you.
Because it is genuinely a very enjoyable read, genuinely something that I think we need books that don't have to be award winners from Indian authors to be valid books. Because, okay, what do you think of this criticism that, I didn't think Indian authors could write? Because people tell me also, you're the first Indian author I've ever picked up. And I'm like, but there are other people writing good books. So what do you think of that sentiment and that space that we're still occupying?
I think the biggest issue that I have with this entire ecosystem is that there's no middle list for us.
Absolutely. I've been saying this for 10 years now. So I started writing, I'm like, where's the medium fiction? I don't want to read Chetan Bhagat. I don't want to read an NRI who doesn't live in our country.
Exactly.
Is there no medium?
There's no John Grisham here. There's no Carl Sagan here. There's no one doing like, science fiction, Michael Crichton kind of. Like that whole mid list of genre fiction, which is also well written. I can think of maybe 2 writers who are doing it, and that too not very well. I mean, I've never seen, and I think it's also slightly because of the way the market works in India, that it disincentivizes larger books. Because I have never seen like a John Grisham can absolutely pull off a 500-page book. And I'm not saying there aren't Indian writers who can't do that, but the market doesn't support it. So you're capped at like a 300-page where your story demands it to be longer, and you just don't get it.
Gaurav Mohanty was telling me he does genre fiction really well. He was telling me that a lot of his Indian sales are hampered by the fact that Indians don't want to buy big books. So now he's splitting his books into smaller volumes so that they actually sell. And he's making it seem more, the titles more customized to Indian tradition, because that's the only way to sell. You can't have anything obscure or blank or not obviously sell.
Exactly. And I think it's also because of one, the Indian readership is very risk averse.
Yes, exactly.
And two, the few people who have taken risks, it has not paid off for them. So they have just sort of like, flipped the table and gone, you know what, I'll just read whatever Oprah is telling me to read. And it just hurts the scene. It really hurts the scene.
Absolutely hurts the scene.
Because there are so many writers who are doing great work, but it just doesn't come out because, people aren't willing to take a chance over it. And I don't even just blame it all on the readers. I also blame it slightly on the publishers.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Because
what big publisher is willing to take a risk on any book?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, until unless, you have like an Instagram following, it's so difficult to even get people interested. And this is especially true for the mid list.
Oh, yeah.
The mid list, if you don't have like an Instagram influencer following going for you, it's very difficult to be like a mid list writer.
Yeah, of course. Because if you have that following, the publishers will come to you.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll say, you give us a sketch, our editors will write it, publish kar lo bhai. Kya fayda?
Yeah, I know. Exactly. So I think there are places to go, and I think light novels also help with that aspect of this, because so much of it is do it yourself. Like, we designed the covers on our own with the publisher. We found artists. They had an in-house team to do the artwork and like the formatting and all of that. Then, I am like, working with influencers to get the word out about the book and all of this. So much of it is
just do it yourself.
Yeah, basically it just boils down to that. And obviously, end of the day, it needs to be a good story that sticks with people. But getting the word out, I think that sort of It's easier when you are like, coming back every 3 months with a new volume and be like, okay, fine, this is the next update in that.
Yeah, it feels like a return to old school comics.
Yeah,
Honestly,
exactly. Yeah.
it feels like a return to, like, oh, back when you were a kid and you were like, oh, a new version of this has come
Yeah,
out, a new
exactly.
something
Yeah.
of this has come out. Wow, I want to see what comes next.
Correct.
And that it feels fun.
Yeah, it feels fun.
Which is not something we can say for a lot of books today.
Yeah, and I think the reason, like, so I see that most strong fandoms happen in fantasy, and I think it's also
Absolutely, yeah.
and it's also because there is space between stories that allow people to talk about it. And because people they come up with their own theories, they come up with fan fiction, because that space to breathe is given between the stories, between the books. And that's why so many fantasy books have like very rabid fandoms around them. And I think things like light novels or even serialized storytelling doesn't even have to be in like the urban fantasy space like mine. Just serialized storytelling, I think it contributes very well to that.
I can see that. So now tell me, if because I get this question a lot, so let me throw it to you.
Okay.
I'm sure you get this a lot as well.
Okay.
But if you are a young author trying to get published in India, specifically in India, what do you think the best route for getting published is?
Honestly, it really depends upon when are you getting to published, because the ecosystem has moved a lot in the last 20 years. Like
today, if you're trying to get published
if
today.
I'm trying to get published today, I think it's terrible advice from a writing standpoint, but figuring out your distribution is very key.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is, if you go to a publisher today, so there's your standard literary fiction route that you go, you get an MFA, you publish in like a an Iowa writers workshop, and then you publish like literary
Iowa
magazine.
writers workshop.
I'll bleep that out. It's fine.
I like that you're thinking of a very specific one. Like, this fuckers in Iowa, they've done this to me.
No, because I've read 3 books from there and I liked maybe half of it.
All right. So you don't think you should get an MFA?
So I think if you are getting an MFA, be very aware of the kind of writing that you're going to do. There will be very certain kinds of writing that you'll be doing after that. Even if you want to be the next Brandon Sanderson, if you have gotten an MFA, it'll probably get beaten out of you.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. Yeah.
So that's one. So if that is the route that you want to go in and you want to be like the next Jhumpaleri or whatever, so there's a route for that. If you want to get published, if that is your end goal, then it's a lot easier to just build an Instagram following and then publish something. That's one. And if you are somewhere in the mid-list where you want to have a career as a writer, when I say career, I mean at least 3 books. Could be more, should be more, but at least 3. In that case, work on your writing, do short stories a lot, publish with magazines, literary magazines, publish Substacks, publish blogs. And then eventually, once you have a good enough story, then go through that querying route. Find a good agent. Good agent is key, and there are maybe like 5 people in the country who are good at it right now.
In India,
yeah. So find a good agent, and then work with that agent to sort of get that story out. But having said that, it really there are these 3 different routes to getting published. So I think before you even get into it as a young writer, decide what kind of writer you want to be.
Decide what kind of writer you want. Yeah, I agree completely with you. Because I don't think either of us have done a writing degree or any kind.
I did physics and then I did HR.
I at least did English degree.
Yeah, I did not even do that. My experience with English degree stopped at the fact that I was in college and I went and sat in the English classroom because I was told that the professor was doing Paradise Lost. And that was the one day the professor decided to teach people how to write answers.
Oh no.
So that was my entire experience with the English department.
I apologize on behalf of English departments.
It's okay. You know who you are, the professor. And I know why you went that direction that day.
Yeah. Look into the camera and talk to them. I know who you are. Yeah, but that's good. So I think these are perfectly viable routes, and I would agree with you. Ultimately, the thing is, to any young writers, you essentially have to do it all yourself.
Yeah.
Wherever, whoever you're publishing with,
Yeah.
the best, the worst,
Yeah.
paid, unpaid, everything, you
Yeah.
have to do it yourself. You
Basically.
ultimately have to go out there, tell people your book is good,
Yeah.
join writing communities, join reading communities,
Yeah.
do murder mystery events,
Yeah.
do whatever your niche is,
Yeah.
and do it. I think this will really work for you. I think this niche will really blow up for you because it is a good, unique niche that not a lot of people are doing.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that people will genuinely enjoy.
Yeah.
Like, enjoy. The thing is, so many times reading is given to us as this thing where you have to learn and
Yeah,
upskill.
exactly, yeah.
You need to become a better person
Yeah.
while doing that. No, it can just be fun, man.
I can't get through any book for more than 50 pages if it's trying to teach me something.
Exactly. I've never read a non-fiction book for
No,
that.
I'm even talking about fiction.
Sure.
If it's like 40 pages of someone just thinking about their dead mother, I'm good.
Name the book, Siddhant.
Of
Name
course not.
it to the camera.
I'm like 3 books in, I still want to have a career.
But yeah, fair enough.
I
so
think
yeah.
also because, and I think that's also why so much of the Indian writing has fallen into a slump now. Because genuinely enjoyable, fun books
Yeah.
are not promoted as much.
Absolutely.
Either if it's like considered to be a genuinely fun, enjoyable book, it's not written very well. Or if it's written very well, they forget to have fun in it. Which is why the mid list is so important. Which is why,
Yeah.
like, a Grisham is well written, but it's also fun to read.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to like think about the human condition on every third page. I'm here to like, because I have a day off from work today and I want to just relax and not just binge watch Netflix for the entire day.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
there isn't a lot of books like that in the Indian ecosystem right now.
And I think this fills a very valuable gap, and that's why I think it will really work for you.
Yeah, I think that's
hope
what
so.
I was also trying to do. You know, I wanted to write a book that I would have fun reading.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. So that is, I think, a really, really good niche.
Yeah.
And I think, to add on to your answer, I think there is a fourth way, which is that Indian writers need to find a niche that we haven't done.
Yeah.
Identify it and actually then target it.
Yeah.
Target it relentlessly until you get someone who believes in your vision and then spread that vision.
Yeah. I think, I mean, that's why I'm a strong proponent of light novels exactly for these reasons.
I can hear it, yeah.
Because it sort of addresses two major constraints that a lot of writers have, especially people who are starting out in India right now. One is, of course, getting the time to write a book and then do multiple revisions and, go through that entire ecosystem of agents and publishers and all of that. Light novel allows you to bypass that to an extent. And secondly, because the stories are accessible, it means your writing also needs to be accessible, which means you don't have to spend like 20 minutes recrafting every sentence so that it's poetic.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to focus on the story. And then and there's a lot of material for you to study and, understand what works in that genre. It's not as popular in India, but out in the East, it's huge.
Yeah, of course.
And
that's easily accessible to us. It's not
that's
like
very accessible to us.
Yeah.
That's very accessible to us. So I think that's why light novels are a good entryway for someone starting to write right now, because you don't have to commit 3 years to writing a book. You can get something done in 6 months and push it out.
Absolutely.
And then because you're always coming back with newer volumes, it also helps you build a following for yourself.
Would you be happy if more light novelists came to
Absolutely. It's like that rising tide thing, right?
Yeah. Rising tide raises all ships.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if there's like, I mean, think about it. Indian fantasy got such a big kick from people like Amal Singh and Mohanty and Prashant Srivatsa and Lavanya Lakshmi and all of these folks, and they're all writers based in India.
Yeah.
Which is
not NRIs
not
writing.
NRIs,
writing
yeah,
for
exactly.
Yeah.
So I think because of them, there are so many people who have realized that, okay, that is a way to become published as well.
Exactly.
And it's, it's sort of that, once you get like people writing good fiction that is, acclaimed as well as popular and is selling well, it helps other people also. Like, because I've read Mohanty, I'll go and check out, someone like a Namal Singh or a Prashant Srivat's, who are also writing in that genre. So I'll be like, oh, so this is someone who has done Indian fantasy, and let's see what else is happening in Indian fantasy. So I'd be more than happy if someone comes in and, blows the light novel genre up, and then, I think it'll help the entire
That'll
ecosystem.
be you.
Let's see.
Yeah.
The first one all through the wall always gets a bloody nose, but let's see.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You get a bloody nose, but then people then you can at least know that you actually helped. You actually helped do something for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. And even like the grandstanding aside, it's just a fun genre to write in. It's a very fun genre to write in.
Genre, right? Absolutely. It was actually fun to read. I play a lot of Japanese video games. I read a lot of Japanese visual novels. So I get sort of this vibe, but I don't actually read a lot of light novels from it. So this was a newish experience for me as well. And as someone who was reading it as a newcomer, I got what you were trying to do, and I enjoyed what you were trying to do. I didn't need to feel, like I said, I didn't need to get the human condition. I didn't need to psychoanalyze Arkav to actually realize what he was going through. I just assumed that, hey, this dude will tell me at some point. I'm excited to see what will happen at that point. Let's see what happens at that point. It's an easy read, and I'm glad that it's an easy read because I don't need to have difficult reads all the time. I can have easy reads sometimes. That's a great thing.
And I think for me, one of the primary defining criteria of light novel is that it needs to be an easy read. Because it's very easy. Like when you're doing long stories like these, it's very easy to get lost in the weeds with them. But as long as you're keeping your focus on the characters and the story, and because there's so much of it to tell, you kind of have to cut it out and you have to get to the point eventually.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I always go back to something that Javed Saab said, that a good writer is not someone who says very simple things in big words. It's someone who says very big things in very simple words.
Correct. Hemingway also is like,
exactly.
poor Faulkner. Does he think big words mean big emotion?
Correct, exactly.
Exactly, yeah.
So that's why I think, that's why I really have fun reading light novels. I mean, obviously I've written one, but then other than that, I also have fun reading light novels.
Of course, yeah.
Because, the story is pretty quick paced, and, the ideas that they are bringing forth in the story, sometimes they can be absolutely profound.
Absolutely. Yeah. You don't need to have academy level prose to actually tell a good story and have connection with human emotions. And with the way that and honestly, with the way that that media literacy is falling, with the way that people need to be hit over the head with the idea of what you're trying to say. Like, I've seen people saying that DCC Carl is conservative, for God's sakes. So it's helpful to have something which is just bluntly telling you, hey, this is what is happening. No hidden things, no nothing. This is what is happening. He's fucked up. He will find out later why he's fucked up. Enjoy it for now. And that's great. I'm happy. Like, I don't need to know it.
And I think also because and it's also because DCC has gone so big and it reached out to so many people that, it also sort of opens up to multiple interpretations. Because I mean, if you really looked at it, someone could build a case why he's conservative also. It will be a bad case. It will be a bad case, but someone could build that case. And I think I don't take that away from the people who are reading it. If, everyone's allowed to have opinions about stories, and I might not agree with them, but then when I'm reading a story, that's a relationship that I have with the writer.
Fair enough.
And the writer might have meant something. I will never know. Like, there's an idea why a writer does something, and then there's what they tell the people. Like, I could give you all sorts of verbiage over why I have written Death Wish, but essentially, I also wanted to sell.
Yeah, of course.
So there are decisions in the story I have made because it just looks cool.
Yeah, the rule of cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, as long as that's fine, that's good.
Yeah, so when you're reading a book by a writer, the writer might have had something in their head. You will never know that. You create something in your own head, and I think both versions of it can be valid.
True. Not when one of the books is Dungeon Anarchist cookbook, where he says he's an anarchist like 5 times a page. Not then, but I get your point. I agree with your point fundamentally. But yeah, I think DCC, as you put it, is also interesting in that after it became popular, other lit RPGs became popular, and other lit RPGs started to become. I get more recommendations for lit RPGs now because of that, and now I'm eager to explore them.
Yeah, exactly.
So viewers can have the same effect, and you can have more writers who want to capitalize on that and get that same effect, which I think is a great thing for everyone involved.
Yeah, it's a great thing for the scene as well, because I think India is very woefully underrepresented when it comes to stories.
Yeah.
And so, and I think there's a certain amount of gatekeeping involved in it as well, but there's also a certain amount of reach also at blame here.
And a certain amount of, like, elitism, if we don't, like snobbishness. Like, Indians can't write these kinds of stories. Yeah, which I think is profoundly and patently untrue.
Yeah. It's because I think we've always looked to the West for validation of good writing.
For validation of everything.
For good writing especially. Because at least you could have, a good movie could be appreciated in India without winning an Oscar. A good book in India is very difficult to appreciate without it winning a Booker.
You're absolutely right, yeah.
So I think the readership and the scene itself needs to get more confident of itself. That, you know what, I'm writing a story, I'm enjoying it. That's it. That's the only thing that matters. I don't need some white person to tell me why the book is good. If I am having fun with it, I am looking forward to what this writer does next, or I am looking forward to the next installment. That's a good enough reason to pay attention to the story.
Absolutely. So I think that's great. Now, I want you to look into the camera and give me your... these are not things that I will understand and I don't need to. But this is for your light novel readers. Give me your light novel hot takes.
Okay. Desexualize the women a little, maybe.
Is that a hot take?
It is for Japan. It is for Japan. I think this is one of the things that even we were struggling with, like, because if you know the opening scene of the book,
I've read most, like I said, I've read almost all of it.
Yeah, so like the opening scene when we were deciding on the artwork for it,
I noticed, Mansi,
So that's the toned down version.
I figured, I was like, how much did they cut out of this?
We put a lot back on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because I think, it's also cultural in a way, because light novel is such a genre that came up in Japan. So, they carry their own sensibilities, their own culture with it. Now that we are translating it to our country, I think that sort of adaptation needs to happen. And I see a lot of Indian manga artists sort of aping the way characters are, sort of drawn in the Japanese style, and they sort of pull it over directly. I think that is something... that's something we need to adapt a little bit. That's one. Second, I think in terms of hot takes, I will not have any more, because it's, because I'm the first one doing it in India. It's difficult to just hot take my own book.
No, not your own book. I want you to hot take light novels in general. This is for light novel readers, regular ones.
Okay, fine. All right, fine. The first is desexualize the women. That's one. Also, like, little less isekai. We've had a lot. Like, literally, there is one for everything. We don't need as many. I think Japan's entire population has died and been reborn somewhere else. So I think, and I think it's also because isekai just works so well. It just allows you to project yourself onto, like, empty shell of a character. Because why it's gotten so popular. But I think it's also sort of starting to reverse now, because there are characters and there are stories that are happening that don't just, sort of mindlessly go into this, I died and got reborn as a slime. That is also a light novel, by the way.
Yes, that is a very good selling one.
Very good.
Very popular one,
yes. So I think maybe, like, and I think that isekai is sort of on the ways down, but can we just, like, sort of, accelerate it?
Okay. Third one, come on, give me something controversial.
I don't think there is, in terms of controversial, there isn't a lot, because it's such a new medium. It's still sort of figuring out its voices.
I see. Okay.
So, like, in novels, and also because, it's such a small market for it right now. It's basically just Japan right now. There are, like, Koreans and Chinese also doing it, but much smaller scale. It's primarily a Japanese form right now. So a lot of the hot takes that I could give you, they don't entirely apply because it's not written for me.
Okay.
It's written for like a 16-year-old boy in Tokyo. So,
That's fine. You're still reading it. You can still say it. Okay, fine. Why don't we try this then? What's your most underrated light novel that you've read that most people don't talk about?
I think ReZero was very good.
ReZero.
ReZero was very good. Just in terms of like, then the Fate series also. Yes, the Fate series also. Like, the Fate series gets talked a lot more about the anime, but they don't cover all the books. So there are certain light novels that have not been adapted yet, and I think those are possibly some of the best ones in the genre.
Oh, okay. In the
Yeah.
genre as a whole.
Of light novels.
Okay.
And even in the franchise as well, but I think even on a larger scale, they're pretty good.
All right. Most overrated light novel.
I think the first one that I read, it's called. I think I'm forgetting the full titles. Practical Hero Redesigns a Kingdom or something. It's basically like a civil servant from Japan who gets born in fantasy, in a fantasy setting, and then he uses like civil services ke concepts to fix their kingdom. which was fun for the first volume, but after that it sort of got like
repetitive. I mean, it's a fun concept, but like, what the hell is that?
Sort of milked it for way too long, I guess.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. Okay, that's interesting. And if you want to suggest a light novel other than yours, of course, for basic reader, for someone who's just getting into them, what would you?
Slime. The time was reborn as slime. Reincarnated as slime. One of the two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, there are all of these light.
Oh no! Wait! I have one more recommendation.
Yeah, go for it.
There is a light novel from the Death Note franchise.
Oh, which one?
It's called
L. Yes.
The Last Case or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have this on my wish list. I have not read it, but I have it.
That was very good.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Then I will definitely check that out. Okay, so now all of these light novels have, like you said, long titles, right?
Yeah.
Like that time that I got reincarnated. If you had to put Death Wish as a long title, what would you do?
I would probably go with I Want to Die, but the crime lord won't kill me.
That gives it
I think that gives it. But I'm not very comfortable with it because it leaves out like the third major character who's coming into the story, who hasn't like shown up yet. And like, that's why I feel bad about leaving Ditwin out of the story.
I do not know who that is, guys, but I'm excited to see. But I think that's a banger title. Yeah. I think you could actually get away with that and pretend like it's a Japanese title and actually do it. Like
alternate cover.
Yeah, with not your name. Don't even put your name. Just put SS on it. There. Then they'll think it's a Japanese artist writing it. You'll Ashwin Sanghi your way into it. Yeah, that's how I think you should. You'll get it.
All right, cool. Yeah, alternate cover. We'll think about that.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea. All right. So I think we're almost out of time.
Yes, almost time. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you would like to tell your readers, or anything that you would like to tell readers in general of what you can expect with your series as a whole? So, Death Wish is the most ambitious thing I've done so far, and I'm having fun writing it, which is always a good sign for myself. If I hate what I'm writing, it generally is very bad. But I'm having fun writing it, and I'm fairly deep into the story now, and it's getting better. If I say so myself, it's really getting better. So if you like stories with a dark, morally grey anti-hero, Death Wish is the story for you. If you like a very complex villain who you're not really sure that you want to hate or you kind of understand, Death Wish is the story for you. Or if you're looking to get into a story which has a quick pace, which has action, which has a lot of your classical thriller elements, while also having some very deep philosophical themes, I think Death Wish is the story for you. Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's a lovely story, and I hope you all check it out.
All right. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Thanks, Sid. And we're out.
Yeah,
good.